This whole week it has rained and rained, and the beautiful thing about living in Africa, even though it does rain at night, during the day you get beautiful blue skies, and this is our blooming season. We get 2 seasons where we get absolutely full bloom, and in between we have the cold season. Now look at my blooms. Now this is a morning glory creeper. It's a giant one, but look at those colors. And I have my new dark maroon salvias, and they're all in bloom. And my feverfew, which we did an episode, it's also come up. Plus my parrot leaf stroke party time. We've done an episode on that, and everything is blooming. Look at my tree dahlia and also my lovely giant salvias. Everything is just at its height. Today I'd like to talk about the Caladium plant. The Caladium plant is a tropical perennial. I've been just obsessed with it. So let's have a look at it. My name is Alice and I'm the Red Soul Gardener. Today I want to introduce you to the Caladium plant. Now this is a Caladium plant. Look at those lovely, lovely designs. Look at it. It looks like hand painted. It looks beautiful. Also, if you look at the shape of the leaves, they call it either the elephant ear because these leaves do get even bigger. But then the other name for it is the heart of Jesus. And look at that. That does look like a heart. Now the thing is that Caladiums come in different colors. Like for example, you get this green variety, and then you do get other varieties which some of them do get a bit more pink. They've got all sorts of different colors. Now the thing about that color is that basically the more sun it does get, the more vibrant the color does get. So I'm playing around with this plant because I've had it in a bit of sun and suddenly the pink did start showing up. But as we work along, we'll see what happens. As I mentioned, there are a lot of varieties. So this is one variety, but they also have a different variety which is more arrowhead and a bit more narrower, and these varieties are a bit more tolerant. So if I were you and you wanted to go and buy a Caladium and you go to your nursery or you go and buy your tubers, it's best to ask the nursery what sort of Caladium is it? Is it the one which has the big elephant ear, or is it the other variety that is a bit more narrower and a bit more tolerant to the sun? In order for you to understand any plant, which I always try to do, apart from opening it up, is to actually know where it comes from. Now the thing about Caladiums is they're rainforest plants. So as they stand in the forest, is they could be under trees, or basically we look at the whole ecosystem of the forest. Now the thing about the Caladiums is that first of all, with the rainforest, you do get warm, hot temperatures, but you get a lot of humidity, and that is one thing that the Caladium likes, is the humidity. The second thing is that because a rainforest does have sort of light and diffuse light, these plants would like to get sun, but not direct sun because their leaves are very fragile, but a bit of sun so you can get the colors coming out. But then the rest of the time is you get sort of diffused indirect sun, and then they'll do really well. Another thing about these rainforest plants, as we've talked about so many other plants, is that it depends on your soil mixture. Now, if you look at the soil mixture that I have here, is I tried to replicate this type of soil that you would have in a rainforest. So I have a lot of bark in there. I have a lot of compost in there in order to recreate the sort of environment or the same soil that my Caladiums would love to have. Now, the other thing is you can have caladiums as indoor plants. I mean, nothing does stop you, and I've seen in a lot of places where you do have them as indoor plants, and they do survive. But don't put it next to a window where you can get the scorching light on the leaves, then you lose your leaves. Just put it somewhere where you can get indirect light. Now, the thing is that if you're staying in an apartment, because sometimes apartments in summer do get really hot, do try to mist them, because they do lose a lot through transpiration, but try to mist them or keeping them very close together. So as it transpires, you get the circulation of moisture. Or if you get into another situation, just put some pebbles in your tray at the bottom. And so you stand your water on top of it, you put your pebbles and have your water and stand the pot. So once again, you get that evaporation, which will keep it sort of in a humidified situation. Now, the other thing about my caladiums is this one is actually wilting because it's going through a transplant shock, because I did pot it this morning, but it will revive. As we know, what you need to do is hydrate, 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 and it will kick off. And I shall post it on Instagram. But the thing about caladiums, the other thing I wanted to point out, is that these lovely leaves, look at them, they all point upwards. And if this was not wilting, it would point upwards like these ones. So they act as solar panels for the plant, and they do absorb all that sun that comes in, whether it's filtered, indirect, to keep the plant going. Now, the other thing about my sweet caladiums is that if you notice, it's almost like the alocasia, which we did cover, is that it has these long stalks. Now, what I've done here is, in order to hold it, is that I've actually just held it with some string. But the thing is that don't keep it near a window and have it open, because these stems are so delicate and the wind can break or destroy your caladium leaf. So do keep it sheltered, and even outside, don't keep it in an area where you get wind and it's blowing, because you will lose your leaves. Again, as we said, is that watering. It does like a well-drained soil. So again, because they grow with tubers, if you do drench this soil, the tubers will rot. So just keep the water well drained, make sure it drains through, but we don't want soggy, because you will lose your caladium. Now, when you are watering your caladium, just make sure that you're actually watering the plant, because with the caladium, as this one is starting to mature and the tubers will expand, and I might even get a fuller caladium, is make sure you go into the soil, because a lot of these leaves, is that they don't like water on them, and as you run the water or the rain on top of it, it just totally drips off. So in order to make sure that you're watering properly, make sure that you're watering the soil. Now, the other thing about caladiums is that basically they go dormant, they take a rest, they take a hiatus. And what they do is that if it's really hot, like in summer, you suddenly see your caladium losing, the leaves start going yellow and they start drooping. It's not that your caladium is dying, it's that it's getting ready to go into its dormant season. And in Europe, this could be towards the end of summer, just going into fall. And so what you do at this stage, you have a choice of either uprooting your caladium and actually using this opportunity to repot your tubers, or you may even, preparing for the winter, is get them and start your storage process, which is simply like what we do with all the agapanthus, the canna lilies. All the storage is to dry your tubers and then keep it moist free, either in a greenhouse or in the basement, and then next spring, and water it sparingly as it goes dormant. And then next spring, as it starts, you start seeing little babies showing up, is now you can start repotting it, replanting it, and you're back in the cycle again. So what we're saying here is basically in tropical climates, I think the Caladium can do really well, and they can do well in European temperate climate for as long as you have about 15 to about 25 degrees Celsius. You should be able to manage your Caladiums. And then once the fall does come in, do uproot your tubers, divide your tubers, callus them 10 days to 14 days, leave it out to callus, and then store it in a moisture dry, or you put some peat on top, keep it dry and water it sparingly, only for the spring to come where you can repot and start your Caladium collection again. Okay, so I have my Caladium, which I did uproot, and I wanted to have a look. And as I said, you know, the tubers look so delicate. Now what I've done is this is from my Caladium plant, and I did open it up because I'm curious. And so this is how it starts. Let me see if I can get you a good tuber. That is the tuber of the Caladium, and it actually looks round. And from there, at the top, is where all the shooting happens. And the baby shooting's here and there. And then, you see, here again, these are the stems. They're all popping out from this round tuber. So as we've seen, out of one tuber, this is what you get, and you can divide the tubers to multiply it. Now what I suspect that is this one must have, because I've seen an injured area here, I think it must have come from there. So this is how your tuber would look like, and we're going to divide it, and we're going to make many babies and follow it on Instagram. Whenever you're dealing with tubers, is that you should actually let it rest and let it callus. But we don't have time here. So what I'm going to do with these tubers is I'm going to actually just cut them up and put them in the soil. But let's assume when you're doing it, you will let the tubers dry out so you can have your callus, and then you plant it. But let's go for it. So I'm going to pull this here. I've got a knife, a sterilized knife, and all I'm interested here is to multiply. And these are the eyes. I'm going to point them upwards so that it grows faster. You can either have it on the side, but it just takes a bit longer. So I'm going to cut my tuber up like this. And this one, I think I'll just leave it as is because it's quite small. So I'm going to now, assuming it's all dry and whatever, I'm just going to remove some of this rooting, just like that. And I'm going to go in here. Now the thing is, I'm going to plant it. I'm not going to make it very deep. So we just cut this one again. And because it's already wet, the soil, I'm going to give it minimum water. We don't want to get the tubers rotting, so I'm going to minimize on the water. Now, my final one. I think this one, as it's already doing well, I think I'm going to just remove some of this rooting, and then I will plant it with the mother here. So I've got this one going. which have followed this baby in Instagram. We've done a propagation of the tubers, and what I'm going to do is, first of all, I did put it in organic matter like the rainforest, is that basically because we've done it fresh, whereas normally you would let the tubers callus, but on the other hand, I have planted it, but I am not going to water it. I'm going to give it very moderate water, or even nothing at all for the next 2 weeks, so that it doesn't have root rot. But then we'll follow this on Instagram. We've taken the other baby that I'd uprooted and planted it here with this, as I call it, the mother Caladium, and we'll follow that, and I'm sure it's going to be a success. And here we have my wilting Caladium, which I did transplant today, going through shock. And all I'm going to do is keep it hydrated, put it in the shade, as we know with transplant shock, just nurture it with shade and lots of water. And that we can follow it up and see if it does go, if it continues to be in transplant shock. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like my channel and spread the word around. I hope you've learned something. Please share with me on your comments, and let's see how everything works. Thank you so much, and have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you.